Imagine walking down a quiet street, heading to meet a friend, unaware that your every step is being watched. That was Susan Leigh Wolfe's last night in 1980. A nursing student at the University of Texas, she vanished in a blink, pulled into a car by a faceless figure. Her lifeless body was found the next day, sparking a 4-decade search for her killer. But after years of dead ends and unanswered questions, a shocking DNA breakthrough has now pointed the finger at a convicted felon and reopened the mystery of a second, still unknown accomplice. What happened that night, and how did it take 44 years to catch him? Please subscribe to our channel and make comments about what you think of our videos. On a fateful night in January 1980, University of Texas nursing student Susan Leigh Wolfe was walking down Franklin Street in Austin, Texas. She was on her way to a friend's house, just days away from her 26th birthday. What started as an ordinary evening soon turned into a nightmare that haunted Austin for decades. As Susan made her way through the quiet streets, a witness spotted a car, later identified as a 1970 Dodge Polara, pull up beside her. The driver got out, and in a horrifying scene, he forced a coat over Susan's head and shoved her into the vehicle. It was over in an instant, and the witness could only stand frozen as the car sped off into the night. Though the passenger door had briefly opened during the abduction, the witness was unable to see the second individual in the car, adding an eerie layer to the crime. The next morning, Austin police made a grim discovery. Susan's lifeless body was found dumped in an alley on East 17th Street, her young life tragically cut short. The circumstances of her death were brutal. She had been sexually assaulted, strangled, and shot in the head. It was a shocking crime that left a deep scar on the Austin community. The investigation immediately kicked into high gear. Police interviewed dozens of suspects and persons of interest, chasing leads that seemed to grow colder by the day. Months passed without a breakthrough, and soon, years rolled by with no arrests. Susan's family waited, hoping against hope for the justice they feared might never come. The case, like so many others from that era, slipped into the shadows, becoming another unsolved cold case. But Austin detectives never forgot Susan Wolfe. More than 40 years later, in 2023, the Austin Police Department's Cold Case Unit decided to give Susan's case one more shot at justice. DNA evidence collected from the scene back in 1980 was resubmitted to the Texas Department of Public Safety's crime laboratory. Technological advancements had come a long way since the 1980s, and detectives were hopeful that the new analysis might bring them the break they so desperately needed. Their determination paid off in February 2024, when a stunning development shook the case wide open. The DNA sample collected from Susan Wolfe's body had been matched to an individual in the Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, a national database that stores DNA profiles of convicted offenders. The DNA belonged to a man named Deck Brewer Jr., a 78-year-old convicted felon currently serving time in a Massachusetts prison for a 2006 kidnapping and sexual assault. Brewer's DNA had been in the system for years, but it was only now, decades after Susan's murder, that technology was able to pinpoint him as the culprit. Detectives knew they were on to something huge, but the case still needed solid evidence to proceed. On June 10, 2024, the Travis County District Court found probable cause to issue a search warrant for a direct DNA sample from Brewer. The Austin Cold Case Unit promptly traveled to Massachusetts to collect Brewer's sample and to interview him. During the interview, Brewer admitted that he had been in Austin and San Antonio around the time of the murder, but refused to cooperate further after learning that his DNA had been linked to the crime. Brewer invoked his right to counsel, knowing full well that his long-buried secret was beginning to unravel. Despite his silence, the evidence was too strong to ignore. The DNA sample collected from Brewer in June was sent back to the lab for a direct comparison with the sample taken from Susan Wolfe's body in 1980. On July 23, the results came back, confirming what investigators had long suspected. Brewer's DNA was a match. Texas authorities wasted no time. On August 14, 2024, an arrest warrant was issued charging Deck Brewer Jr. with the kidnapping, sexual assault, and murder of Susan Leigh Wolfe. Brewer, now 78 and in poor health, will likely spend the rest of his life facing the consequences of the crime he committed over 40 years ago. However, the case is not yet fully closed. Investigators are still trying to identify and locate the mysterious passenger who was in the car during Susan's abduction. This person, who has evaded justice for decades, remains a key piece of the puzzle. Authorities continue to ask anyone with information to come forward, hoping that the arrest of Brewer will jog memories and finally bring every player in this tragic story to light. For Susan's family, the arrest of Deck Brewer brings a bittersweet closure. Though justice is finally being served, it comes decades too late. Susan's bright future as a nurse was stolen in an act of horrific violence, and no arrest can ever undo that loss. But her story serves as a powerful reminder that, even when justice seems impossible, persistence and advances in technology can bring answers that were once thought lost forever. Please subscribe to our channel and make comments about what you think of our videos.